होम में स्क्रॉल कर, सबसे नीचे वाले मेरे बैक से माउस निकालना पीछे। बोला भाई पीयूष भाई आप मैडम बहुत खराब सब आप से बोल कर रिकॉर्डिंग होती है। तो फिर इधर पब्लिश क्यों करना नहीं आता, हमेशा रिजेक्ट आया अभी तक मेरे जो भी अभी किया है, जो भी के उसमें सारे एक्सपीरियंस डाल के क्लाउड वाला फिर भी नहीं। डायलॉग चलेंगे सारे चलेंगे लेफ्ट साइड में सेम चीज चलेगी, कोई बात नहीं। आदित्य
Okay. Okay, guys. So we have the quiz later today, and today's lecture will be about web. Okay, because we haven't talked much about Flutter web, and this is about just two things. First of all, deploying the Flutter web app and everything that needs to do with it, and then also using the Webview within Flutter. So basically, accessing the internet from inside the Flutter, how you would show an internet site from inside the Flutter. Okay, so to build Flutter web, we call Flutter build web. Okay, so it will put the application or the built website into this directory, into the build directory and under web. Okay, and here you have your index.html, all your JS files that are needed to run it, and this dart.js is basically what changes, what compiles all that Flutter code into JavaScript, because at the end of the day, what runs in the web app is JavaScript in the background. And so with that, we get our web app. Now, the thing is, if you want to deploy the web app to Firebase, you need to create some things in your firebase.json file. So you go back to Firebase init. So you call Firebase init, okay? And from the initialization, remember we did the init for functions where we configured the cloud functions. Similarly, we will go and init hosting. We will initialize the Firebase hosting for our project. And there's a few things that it will ask us. It will say, where is your public directory? What that means is that where are the files that you are hosting sitting? And because the files are being built into build/web, it's not called public, but it's called build/web. So you have to overwrite this and say as build/web. And then configure as a single page web app. The default is no, but you should say yes, because our Flutter app is a single page web app. And automatic builds no, and index exists override no. Okay, so this is our setup for the Firebase JSON. And what does it put into Firebase JSON? It says, for the hosting configuration, the public directory is here, ignore these things and rewrite everything to source. So that's basically everything that goes not to index.html, but some other location should be rewritten to index.html because it's a single page web app. Okay? That's simple. Now, the next thing is that you go to Firebase and you, in this case, this is my project. You go to hosting here in the project shortcuts, or actually in the build, you click on build and then you select hosting and get started, okay? So we're now setting up a hosting site for our project. So those steps, you don't really need to do anything. You just go next, 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 okay? It tells you how to deploy it, etc., but we'll go over it. And now when you go to your Firebase domain, you'll see that you have these two handles that you can go to your hosting site. So your default hosting site is your project name, .web.app, and again, project name .firebaseapp.com. So these are the two default hosting handles for your project. So what you can do, of course, is you can connect your own domain to these things by redirecting. So there is a way to do it. It will guide you through it. I'm not going to go through it now, but if you have your own domain, you can do that. And the other thing is you will see add another site. Okay, so we will talk more about it. But the thing is, from the same Firebase project, you can have multiple sites. You can have, for example, your core site where it's a replica of what your mobile app is, right? But you can also create an admin site, which is a separate view where you don't need to worry about a mobile app or an Android app because you are the owner of the project. You can just do the admin stuff from there. You can provision users, change certain settings, etc. from the admin side. It's possible to do that in Firebase. It's quite straightforward. But there's other settings that we will go into it. Anyway, so for the simple setup, what you do is that we will say Firebase deploy -- only hosting. The reason we're saying only hosting is the deploy command affects a few things. For example, Firestore rules. Remember, in the Firestore database, we have set the rules that it's open to everyone. There is no authorization needed. If the timestamp is below a certain date or earlier than a certain date, just don't check for any authorization, don't check any restrictions. So those Firestore rules are also part of your project. They would be deployed normally, but here we're just saying deploy hosting. And when you say deploy hosting, here it says this is your project name. This is the name of the hosting site. So because it's the default hosting site, it is the same as your project name. But we'll see that it can be different. And then it deploys the files that it finds in build/web. Okay? Anything that it finds in build/web, it deploys because we have specified in our firebase.json that my public directory is build.web, so take everything from there and deploy there. And of course, everything like node modules, all this information has been ignored, right? Because it only deployed 32 files, whereas the node modules themselves would be thousands of files, right? So all of that was ignored. The ignore message. So if you have any keys or secrets, etc., that you don't want to deploy, you can add it into that ignore command. And then when I look at my my app will be just available at that web address. And all I've done is I've created a generic website, a generic page which says welcome to web. So any questions about the web deploy? This is quite straightforward so far. Now, the interesting part comes with the admin app. Okay? So you have your Firebase project, you have your Firestore, Firebase options, everything configured for this project. And now you want to create another view only for you, right? Where you can go in and modify users. You can do any other admin type of stuff. It could be, for example, you're a store, and this could be your shipping admin app. You could have a shipping admin app, or you could have a customer support admin app. You could have multiple apps that support the same infrastructure that you have, because all your customers, all your orders, everything is sitting in one database, but you want a different app to manage dispatches or manage customer complaints, etc., etc. All of this stuff is possible with the structure that I'm now showing you. So the first thing we do is we create another main.dart. So we take our main.dart, okay? We take our main.dart file, and we create a file called, let's say, main_admin.dart, okay? And this main_admin.dart has, so instead of my app, I have now an app called my admin app, which is in this case defined inside the main, but it could be defined somewhere else. And this time I'm calling my app Flutter demo admin. Okay, so let's go and look at this directory. Let's get a little bit better understanding of what I'm talking about. So this is my lib, right? This is my lib directory, and here I have my Firebase options, my main admin, main.dart, and both of these files are using or consuming the same Firebase options. So it means they are looking both to the same Firebase project. The only difference is the main admin is a different app, basically. It will look different. It will say, welcome to web admin app. And the main.dart, okay, this has been a little bit modified now, but with the web view, I could go. So my main.dart just says welcome to web, and my main admin says welcome to admin app. Okay, so I have two main files. Now the question is, how do I handle all this building, deploying, etc.? Okay, so that's the question. So one of the things that you want to do is to be able to launch the main, the regular app and the admin app separately, right? If you look at our launch file, if you look at our launch.json, so the launch.json, normally it doesn't have this program. So I can delete this program. Normally it doesn't have the program. It's assumed that the program is lib/main.dart. So if the program were to start the compiling, if it's not given, it's assumed to be main.dart. But for the admin app, okay, I create the three profiles for debug, profile, and release, where, first of all, I change the name of the launch file. So this would be admin blah blah, this would be admin profile, this would be admin release, and its entry point is lib/main_admin.dart. Okay, so the entry point is different. So when I go to my launcher and I see what's available, now my admin app launch points are available in the launcher. Okay, so that's the first thing that I need to do, that I should be able to launch the admin app. Okay. Okay, so now I can launch the admin app with this. And by adding, just showing that this is the case. Now, the second thing is we create another site. Okay? So we go to, remember it had the create another site button. So we create another site, but this time I'm calling the site, again, my default project name, -admin, etc. So the only thing I'm doing is I'm adding -admin to my project name. And so now I have another site. Now, the thing is, if I use this command, where was this command? If I use this command, deploy -- only hosting, where am I deploying to? It's not clear because I have two sites, and which files am I deploying to where? Okay, so that's a problem. So that's why what I do is that there is this concept of targets in the syntax of the Firebase hosting files and Firebase resource files. So there is a file called .firebase.rc, and in there you define targets, and you will first put the project name here. That's the project name, and then for the purposes of hosting, remember There is hosting, Firestore, storage, etc. There's various things that you can do the deployment for. We're now only talking about hosting under this project, and I'm defining 2 targets, okay? Because this name, it's the same as the project name, but actually this is the name of the hosting site, okay? This is the name of the hosting site, and this is also the name of the hosting site for the admin. So these are my 2 hosting sites, and the way I'm going to refer to them is client app, admin app. Okay, so for the 2 hosting sites, you create 2 target names, client app and admin app. So now when you're deploying to hosting and specifying these client app and admin app names, the files will either go and saved into this site, which is .web.app, or that site .web.app, okay? So that's one place where you're defining these targets. The next place where you're defining the targets, I'm putting here just for reference so that you can see, is in Firebase.json. So before, Firebase.json didn't have any of these targets, and it was not a list because it was only a single file. So let's just quickly look back at that Firebase.json. You know, when we initialized Firebase.json, when we only had one hosting site, it was curly braces, right? It wasn't a list, and it specified the public directory. It didn't have a target because it was just using everything default, okay? And all the other information about ignore and rewrites is there. So now, because we have the targets, our Firebase.json file takes a target, and when you specify the target, what you're basically saying is that this configuration, if the hosting is specified for a client app, put it into this site, basically the client side, put it onto this site, and these are the conditions, and take the information from build/web. Okay, take the files from build/web. That's anyway our default. We sort of leave it there. But for our admin app, I'm specifying take the build from build/web_admin. So when I'm building the web app, therefore, I need to make sure that the build files go into build/web_admin and not to this build file, build directory, because then everything will be a soup, okay? So it's better you specify your build/web_admin. If by mistake you take it, you know, there is no way that you can take it. The only thing you can do is you could redeploy from here if you built your admin app into build/web. Anyhow, so admin app is your target. We know where the files are going to go, to this site, the second site that we created, and it's going to be taken from this build/web_admin. So we need to make sure that there is something in build/web_admin. Okay? So this is how we ensure that the admin app is properly built. Okay? So remember, for the launch, we were specifying a program where, you know, where should I start the program, which we're saying, you know, lib/main dart. In the build, Flutter build command, it's --target. So if I don't put this, it assumes lib/main.dart. But if I put --target, it starts building from where I say it should build. So it builds from main_admin, which is my admin entry point. And I also specify the output to go to web-admin, right? And I also specify that it's not a debug, but it's a release version. So with this, I now have put my admin app into a directory, a separate directory from the regular app, and ready to deploy. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, so when I'm deploying, what I do is that I say Firebase deploy. Remember, in the regular one, it was only dash only hosting and nothing after. The syntax is colon and then the target name. So, because in this case the target is the admin app, it's hosting colon admin app. Now, in the resulting output on your screen, you will get deploying to the project name. So this would be the project name. But here, it's a hosting square brackets. This is your hosting site. This is the new site that we created. Okay, name of the hosting site. And then directory where build files are coming from is build/webadmin. So if you look carefully at these, at that information, you can catch if you made any mistake or so. Okay, so that's the crucial information here, and it tells you how to access the URL, right? Which is the admin apps site.web.app or firebaseapp.com. And similarly, if you want to deploy the client app, you would do -- only hosting client app because client app target is defined. If you don't put the client app, it will still use the default, so it will work probably, I think. But if you have a dual app structure like this, it's better to specify it and be precise. And with that, I will have the two separate apps, because this is how I specify the so in Firebase hosting, I have the two sites. It tells me, so in this one, it tells me the releases I've made here. I've made 2 releases, and I can view the app from here by clicking onto this. And it says welcome to web because that's the only thing that was there. And the other thing you can do is, I think, you can roll back. So you can roll back to a previous release here in the app. So this FBEF94 is now the current release. Okay, so those are the things in the Firebase web. And similarly for the admin app, it's a separate app and it comes up as admin app and the name and everything, okay? So this is, by using this pattern, you can create multiple sort of management apps for your app, and I think it's a better way to create like smaller separate apps that you can maintain than having a huge giant sort of admin app. And don't forget, because it's sitting in the same code base, right? It's sitting inside the same code base as the rest of your app. All the widgets and any other special things that you've built for your client app are reusable here. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do anything else. It can all live in here. Any questions? Okay. So then, let's go to Webview. I lost this. Pixel again. Okay. That's done. That's done. Okay. One second, guys. Just okay, so for Webview, there are two packages. There is the Webview Flutter, which is by the official Flutter team, flutter.dev, and Flutter in-app Webview is by a separate group of people, enthusiasts that have developed it. I'm not entirely sure about the exact differences between them, but we're gonna just look at the basic at this point. And whenever you're needing, whenever you need to use Webview and there is some advanced functionality that you need, then you may have to dig into the differences between them and which one is better. There's slight, structural differences. So for the Webview, I'm going to put in a text editing controller to be able to take the URL, right, the address, and it needs a Webview controller, which is part of the package, a Webview controller to be able to navigate the pages, and it requires a URI, which is generated from the text editing controller. So we're going to type in google.com, and then we're going to turn it into a URI, which then is passed into the Webview controller. Okay. So in the init state of my page, I'm going to pass the text editing controller some default text, google.com, and then for the Webview controller, I'm going to set the JavaScript mode to unrestricted. You have the option to set the JavaScript mode to restricted or to not to run JavaScript, and we'll see in a minute how it changes things on the view. So that's the init state. Okay. The next thing is whenever I change the file or whenever I change the address, I'm going to ask to process the form. And so if it starts with HTTPS or HTTP, I try to parse it as it is. Okay? If not, then I'm adding an HTTPS in front of it, and then I'm trying to parse it. So the try parse is relatively new. It exists in a number of types, like double, int, and so on. So the try parse is something that you should know about in Dart, which results in null. So it doesn't give an error, but it results in null. URI.parse will result in an exception if it cannot parse it, okay? So you can use it as you like. So if the URI is not null, then the Webview controller, we're going to load request, we're going to give the URI to load the page, okay? And how does my page look like? My page looks like I have a text form field inside a column wrapped with a form, although I'm not actually using the form for have it wrapped in a form. And underneath it is this Webview widget, okay? Something that we haven't talked about is this expanded. Has anybody used expanded before? Yes? No? Who knows? Does anybody know what expanded works for? How expanded works for? Okay. All right. So expanded is an interesting thing that you will need, especially working with columns and rows. Okay. And it's the following. Remember, with the column tries to fill the space, where it is, and it will allow its children to grow as much as they want, right? Because if you put more things into column, they should be able to stretch the column's boundaries as much as they want, okay? So the thing is, this Webview widget clearly cannot have a boundary, right? It needs to show as much as it gets from the web page. So it needs to grow as much as it can, and so then they are clashing with the column, because the column is now sitting in the body of the scaffold. So okay, so by saying expanded, so the Webview widget is sort of like the single child scroll view. Okay, it will take an outside bound, to keep itself bound. But if it doesn't get the outside bound, it tries to go infinite, and then you get a clash. So expanded means here I have a text form field and a padding, okay, this thing inside the column, which is a finite size. And then the rest of the column, I'm telling to Webview widget, you can take all the rest of the space for yourself. By saying expanded, I'm saying it all the rest of the, but not more. Okay, so the Webview widget says, okay, my viewport is this much. Even though my content is there, then I'll give it a scroller, similar to the single child scroll view. So expanded sorts this. So keep that in mind. But it only works inside columns and rows. And so that's something to do. So then we get this web view. So let's see this in action. So that's my web view. And so it comes pre-populated with google.com, and it brings Google. Okay, if I put something else, tesla.com, it brings Tesla. Oh, I probably hit something somewhere. It brings the Tesla. Now, let me show you how that JavaScript changes life. Let's go to the WebView page. And in the WebView page, let's remove this JavaScript mode unrestricted. Save this. And refresh. Okay, let's go to so it looks like it didn't do anything, but it actually did. It just brought everything back underneath. None of these buttons or anything came out, okay? So when you're implementing WebView pay attention to this JavaScript mode. You know, set it on or off if you're getting a result which you don't like, okay? That's the JavaScript mode. Now, let us go to the in-app web view. How is that implemented? So in the, where's my file? Right. So in the in-app web view, I don't initialize the in-app web view controller in the init state. So it's slightly different. In the regular web view, you create a web view controller, you give it an address, and when you create your WebView widget, you also give the controller so that the WebView widget will do something. The in-app WebView is sort of the other way around. You don't create the WebView controller, and this part is the same. So the WebView, so for changing the URL, instead of load request, you have load URL, and then it gets a URL request. Okay? So that's the process form part is the same, parsing the thing. But it's in the last page that there is a difference. So the in-app web view, remember we had the web view widget where we said controller is the controller we created earlier. The in-app web view, it creates the controller when the web view is created. Okay, it's the other way around. So when the web view is created, I can, through a function called onWebViewCreated, it passes the controller to me, and then if I need access to the controller, I equate this controller to my controller variable that I declared before. Okay, so it creates the controller, gives it to me, whereas in the other one, I create the controller and give it to the web view. So in the in-app web view, you can also set the initial route and everything. The reason they've done it this way probably is that if you're going to just display a static web page, or you don't need any navigation or any other adjustments, you can create the in-app web view without explicitly stating a controller, just like the text form field, right? Text form field, if you don't give it a controller, it creates it itself and keeps it inside. You don't see it. But if you create a controller and give it to text form field, you can do more things with it. So that's the difference with the in-app web view. And let's see that in action. Okay, so for this one, in-app web view, because initially we didn't give it a route, the page is empty with google.com, it comes in. The only thing is the JavaScript in the in-app web view is automatically enabled at the start. And when I go to Tesla website, it does the JavaScript. It shows the behavior. I didn't have to set JavaScript to unrestricted. And I'm going to show one more thing with the web view, and then we'll be done with this. Oh, I forgot to put it there on the page. I'll put it later. Okay, so this one is about navigation restrictions, because when you're showing your client on the website you're directing client to a website, you may want to not let him go to any other website or restrict certain websites, etc. And that's done by this navigation delegate, okay? By basically this setting. So you put a navigation delegate, and whenever there is a navigation request, it's just like how the router, Go router, has the redirect. It's the same thing, that it intercepts the request, and before executing the request, it can do certain things. For example, if the request URL contains YouTube, it should say show snack bar, navigation not allowed. Okay, so let's see if this will work, hopefully. And so it either returns navigation decision, so it returns a navigation decision. So if you look at this file, it's a future navigation decision, and navigation decision is either prevent or navigate. So Webview, and I go to Google, it works, and I hope, I haven't tested this, youtube.com. It says this destination is not allowed, okay? So basically, there is a few other, methods or controls in the Webview controller that you can invoke to manipulate where the client is going, what it's doing, etc. You can run JavaScript code. You can take the entire HTML of the page. And one of the things that in-app Webview does is that it has the ability to run a headless Webview. So headless meaning you're not showing anything on the UI, but you're going to the web page, you're getting some data, and then if you want to process it somehow from that web page, you can do. Where could this be useful? You let some customer log into another website through your app, and then whatever thing comes from the screen, you can scrape it, whatever, to get information. I don't know. You can do many other things with the Webview, but that's basically a tool that you can get. For example, the Webview controller, I think dots. So for example, when you look at the things it has, I'm pretty sure load HTML string. I thought you could get the current content. Anyway, maybe it's the other one. In the in-app Webview, you have a lot more controls to get the HTML inside, do it headless, etc., etc. Okay, so if you don't have any further questions on this, I'm going to stop here, and then we can continue to our quiz. No questions on Webview? All clear? Yes.
Do the session that a browser has usually works the same here? Like, what if I log in on the Webview?
Does it keep the authentication state? You need to read about the package. I mean, there is some persistence of cookies and local storage, I think. So probably in-app Webview gives you more control over these things. So that's where you may use in-app Webview. But in-app Webview is a little bit more experimental, I should say, than the regular Webview. Yeah. So as a trade-off, it gives you more options, but also it's a bit more quirky and fragile. So do you guys want to take a break, or you want to break? Okay, let's do a 10-minute break and then do the exam.
I just couldn't read it. I don't know. A lot of information. So dialogue.
By the way, I'm checking your Firebase Firestore, and I'm seeing, worryingly low activity on the Firestore database with regard to the project. See what I mean? Are we getting there with the project? I mean, this is not.
I know,
You need to show something more than hello world in your project, right? It needs to move. It needs to show some action and some life.
First
In song,
6 days
how is the mafia going?
UI pages are called.
You can play it.
UI
You can
pages.
play it.
Where?
I mean, we have the UI.
Figma is there for
Show me.
UI pages code.
Who has it?
Rochip has it on his computer. The login page.
Sir, చూపిద్దాం మనకు పోయింది సడన్ గా పోయింది పోయింది ఎందుకు పని
I've got the main pages and stuff what have to.
Okay, so it's getting there, and you're running it in Chrome.
There's a function. I think it's a function.
You can always, deploy to web and have it permanent. Just play with
ఈ
it.
పాట లేదారా
With that, because I showed you today.
బర్త్డే బర్త్డే ఎత్తుకుని ఏంటున్నారు
Multi-thread.
So different view, and then we plan to add and then at the end of the day, at the end of the day, like at the end of the day, you get to choose a character which you want to switch to a line dance. Then you see what happens. So then just a skeleton. It's a
So,
skeleton.
but
There's
it's
no
getting there. Nice. Very good. Excited.
So there is something. There's something.
I'm excited. Yeah.
这个 call function.
మర్జ్ రిక్వెస్ట్ లో ఎవరు చెక్ చేస్తారు మీరు చెక్ చేస్తారు
So the on-call is called from the app. So on-call is defined
This is from last week.
I was thinking about this one.
Huge.
Not yeah, it's in the index bacteria type process. The platform,
Also padding that. I did the bonus.
అయితే 100 లక్ష
No, because last time around I got 100. Because
How is your app?
fire up.
It'll be 100.
I should get 105.
There could be others.
You need to cover somewhere.
No, we're giving too much, so it's 100 max. The quizzes are too easy. Everybody's getting. So in the first one I gave, but then
ఉందిరా అదర్ నా పెన్
keep it 100.
So you don't answer the bonus question. That's still obsolete. It's just like
This data, it could be a string.
Last one?
Yeah, that's pretty.
update చేస్తారా పని చేస్తారా
I think so. It's just here.
Oh.
I know, but I'm saying like this Tuesday.
Just take your time, read every question twice.
People were handing out.
Don't rush. You have time. So is everybody back, or we're just waiting for one person?
完了，我今天只吃了泡面。先烤肉是那个。
మా ఇంట్లో స్కామ్ చేస్తారా అని ప్రో అంటారు అప్పుడప్పుడు ఇది ఆగే టైం చూస్తుంటే పిచ్చకోపం
Guys, I'm going to really ask you this time, don't look at each other. Please don't talk. Just, okay? Please just do your work. I mean, you're graduate students. I'm not going to separate you and put gaps between you and everything. But you have to be, because it's not, to be honest, it's not to me. It's just to your fellow students, okay? So that's just out of respect to your fellow students. Please work alone.
Somewhere else. Let's just see if you're wrong in the app.
बास्केटबॉल बेसबॉल लड़ाता हूँ कि भाई ये नहीं होना चाहिए मेरे बेसिकली कॉलेज बेस्ड
That's different.
because from hobbies में interested हो I think we can message each other or if someone someone is playing badminton and they want to play
నేను ఒకటి క్రియేట్ చేస్తాను కానీ ప్లేయర్స్ కావాలి
అందరు కలిసి సల్సల్ డాన్స్ చేసుకుంటే కోర్స్ రండి అంటే జనాలు
ఆఫ్టర్ గేమ్
और ఈ వీకెండ్ హైకింగ్ చేస్తున్నాం కూలింగ్ కాదు శాంటా క్లారా యూనివర్సిటీకి
ఇండియాలో
శాంటా క్లారా యూనివర్సిటీ వైట్ గేమ్ పాయింట్ కూడా
Okay.
我忘记挣扎了。
Please read the question carefully twice. You have time. It's not,
No, I did.
Deepak.
the layout is currently not how we can
Separate the differently in one. Like there is something, for example, you're displaying something. I'm just basically saying how it should look, what would be sensible. That's it, yeah, those that type.
these steps.
Just verbal, nothing. Can you wait? Yeah, so this is a big something. Printing these numbers on the screen. So where's the last number that's printed? Okay. Okay, I'll take a look once the scene is finished. One second. Are you finished? It's okay.
So what we can do is I downloaded the videos.
Yes, yes.
It's open.
So it seems to be working fine. Where is it implemented? The com will be other type, remember? Oh, here, yeah. Com dots. Okay, so that's fine. Ginger. Are you finishing? Come on, guys. Okay, let's run this thing. So you cannot type here. Okay. When you have this type of problem, you can use it one Is this XE workspace? You sure?
Yeah.
Builds for destination. What's this machine? It doesn't? It's not working. Thank you. How is the NFC? Any success yet?
It turns out Apple is restricting. So the way it ends is that the iPhone, you tried it everywhere. It's like NFC on it. Apple won't
It's a
let us
card.
do it on
See what a
certain
card.
criteria for them. You have to put in your request. Fulfill security and privacy,
But what about, oh,
all that stuff. So
even in the test flight, they wouldn't?
no, it's like it's different from the entitlement that we found in during office hours. It's like a different entitlement that we have to put a request to allow access.
Okay, so you're gonna do something different then?
Yeah, so we're thinking one option we're thinking is during the big QR code. That is a lot simpler.
Okay. Good. So what's happening here? Error creating error.
The problem with the new simulator earlier is something. The moment I updated my Xcode, this is happening.
Right. Oh, wait a second, your simulator is an x86-64.
Yeah,
Why is your simulator x86-64?
I have no idea. I just updated from then and then. Oh, now it's fake. After
Ah, okay, just put it.
after a long time, now it's fake.
So. I'm sure it's something to do with the settings somewhere. What? Okay.
So basically, the card ఒక break point 450 పెట్టా మొబైల్ ఫోన్ నుంచి సడన్ గా 12. If it breaks the break point of 450, suddenly it turn to tablet at 600.